There's a lot of different opinions when it comes to shooting black and white film. Some people like it, some people don't like it. And to be honest, I really love shooting black and white film. But as I said before, there are a lot of people that don't like it. And there are some reasons, some valid reasons I think, why some people don't like shooting black and white film. And in this video, I want to bring you guys back with me to Cape Town, where I was doing a portrait shooting on black and white film only. So black and white film is kind of a controversial topic in the film community. I think the reason for that is some people don't really see the reason for shooting black and white film. Because if you commit to shooting black and white, there was no way to get back to color in post-production. On the other side, if you shoot color film, you could always turn it to black and white. It's up to you to do that. I've done it myself back in the days. I don't do it too much, but I totally get it. It's a totally valid reason to have the possibility to change the color in post. Also, what some people don't really get about shooting black and white film is that the film essentially is cheaper to buy. Still, the post-processing is more expensive if you pay a lab to do it. This is not because the process is easier to do. Actually, developing color film takes more chemicals compared to the black and white film. Still, not too many people shoot black and white, and that's why film labs have to get the films developed by hand and not mechanically. So that's why it takes more time. That's why the post-processing is more expensive. So the question is, why would you still shoot black and white if there are some cons to it? And there is one thing that I always tell people why I love shooting black and white, and it has a lot to do with limiting myself. There's a quote from Debbie Allen saying, "But out of limitation comes creativity," which essentially means limiting yourself forces you to become more creative. Here's another quote that I found on the internet which kind of explains this a little better. "Tell an artist to paint anything and he may struggle, but tell him to create something specific in a set amount of time for a certain audience, and these constraints might well push him to produce something he might never have come up with on his own. We grow and evolve by testing ourselves. That's my personal philosophy." So that comes down to limiting yourself in order to spark creativity and to really make the use of what you actually got in hand. Whether it's the camera, the lens, the film stock, the model, the location, it can be anything. And limiting yourself is something that not only photographers use. I think a lot of people in the creative industry make use of limiting themselves. For example, musicians to just play one instrument or just one chord. Painters to just use a specific technique of painting, for example. And in photography, there are also different possibilities to limit yourself. Besides committing to only one film stock, you could also just go for one focal length. That's actually something that a lot of you guys might have done already. And it's also something that I can't recommend enough. So when I started taking photographs like 7 years ago, I started with a Canon 600D, having just the kit lens, like a little zoom one. But I remembered when I picked up my very first prime lens, the 51.8 at the time, it really sparked my creativity, and it really taught me like how this actual limitation made me more creative and just gave me a different kind of seeing the world through that specific lens, to the only lens I was having at the time. So sticking to just one lens, whether it's prime or zoom, can ultimately spark your creativity a lot, especially because it forces you to really focus on what you got. And in my opinion, it enables you to really come up with new ideas, because since you can't change the lens anymore, you start to focus on different things. For example, the model poses, the level of shooting, whether it's eye level or from the hip, or whether it's the light or just anything else than the lens. And this is really something that helped me a lot in becoming more creative with my subject. Another thing you can do doesn't ultimately work for taking photographs of people, but there is this one photographer who worked for National Geographic by the name of Jim Brandenburg, and after 30 years of traveling and working for National Geographic, he was kind of burned out. So he started a photography project where he would take one single photograph each day Not like posting just one photo each day, just pressing the shutter for once a day for 93 days. And this helped him to become more calm and more slowed down and to really appreciate taking photographs again. So you see, there is a lot of creativity and curiosity that limiting yourself can spark. But even more, black and white film just looks so good. What I love about shooting black and white is the variety of film stock that you get. You have like 50 ISO films, you got a ton of 400 ISO films, lower contrast, higher contrast, but you also get a lot of variety in 3200 speed films such as Delta or T-Max. And something that I also love about shooting black and white is that it's super common to push or pull your films. Actually, when you hand your black and white films to a lab, they can easily push or pull your film. It is super common to do that with black and white film stocks. But if you do that with color film, it's actually a lot harder to find labs that do those kind of post-processing for you. It's not really common to push or pull color film. I see a lot of people on Instagram doing that, but just talking from my personal perspective in Germany, just very few labs do that. So if you want to experiment with pushing and pulling film, black and white is your go-to. But when it comes to the most important thing that I love so much about black and white is that I have no chance to go back to color. Once I pick the film stock, I totally commit to only have those images in black and white. And this is something very beautiful, especially in this time that we live in, because I think we tend to not commit to one thing only. We always go like, yeah, but maybe in the end I want to change it and blah blah blah. I don't really like this kind of thinking. There is some valid reasons for doing that, don't get me wrong, but I really enjoy just making one decision and being fine with it, not having the opportunity to change it afterwards. And this is actually something that I would recommend you guys to do, whether it's in photography or, I don't know, if you get an invitation for your next birthday, just say yes or no and not be like, yeah, okay, I might come, but there also might be something else happening at the same date, so I won't come. That's a very valid lesson, and that's something that not a lot of people value in this modern age that we live in, I would say. So that makes kind of a nice practice for you. As I said before, this is the second video of my Cape Town series, and it's a portrait shooting that I did with Larissa and Marco. It's black and white film only, it's just Ilford XP2, HP5 and Delta 3200. Marco is again shooting on this Pentax 6.7. You won't see any of his photos because they're not finished, which doesn't matter. It's still nice to see his kind of shooting, and also just seeing the Pentax. It's just nice to see this insanely well-built, super aesthetic camera. I was shooting on my Leica M7 as always. I was using the 35 Summicron and the 50 Summicron. I didn't use the 50 too much, you will see it in the photos, but every now and then it's kind of nice to be a little more close to the subject. But without further ado, let's jump right into the shooting with Marco and Larissa. So that wraps up the video. Thank you very much for watching. Again, I think some of the photos turned out really nicely. To be honest, I don't regret shooting just black and white. I don't really miss any color in this video. Black and white really has this power to make something look very timeless, and I really enjoy those photographs. Please let me know in the comments if you love shooting black and white, or if you're not familiar with shooting it, or if you do prefer color. There is valid reasons to shoot both. I also shoot both. I really enjoy just committing myself to just have it in black and white in the end. I think it's a really valuable lesson, and it makes for some really creative and nice photographs, because you start looking for different things. Like, you focus more on the shadows, on the lighting, and you don't think too much about how the colors will turn out in the end. There is one more tip that I want to give you guys, and I had it happen to me like a lot of times. I would always choose black and white when the light isn't any good. Like, when I would walk out on a cloudy day, I would always go for black and white, because it's kind of a waste to shoot color if there is no light. This is something that I still do, but it's kind of a shame to use black and white only in those circumstances, because black and white makes for some great images if there is really like bright sunlight, because it can cast some nice hard shadows. So that's something that black and white can also do for you, and I will for sure continue to shoot black and white in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for spending your time with me. I hope you got some value out of this one, and see you in the next week with a new video.